Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Tax season is here, and that means that it's time to file your taxes. There's good news. If you're a W-2 employee, you can save half off your filing. All you have to do is call the Tax Defense Group before April 15th, 2020, and mention that you saw this ad on UCAS Studios. Millions of Americans will get money back after they file, and you can be one of them. Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973. That number again is 800-850-7973. And you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you looking to make more money in 2020? One of the best ways to do that is by having a new resume that can help you get that dream job. Writer Junkie offers affordable, well-written resumes for the low cost of $145. They'll even throw in a cover letter for no additional charge. All you have to do is mention that you saw this ad on UCAS Studios, and they'll get right to work. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Lakers Outsiders podcast alongside UCAS Studios. I am your host, Gary Kester, here with you as always. And with me, again, I guess normally, is Hani Amadi. And Hani, I know it's been a long week, man, but how are you holding up?
Doing a lot better this Sunday than I was last Sunday. I can say that much.
Yeah. Said this just before we went on, but probably one of the longest weeks of my life, maybe the longest week of my life. It's been a tough week for, Laker fans, Kobe fans, basketball fans, people, I think in general. Obviously, we're recording this 1 week after the tragic events that took 9 lives. I'm going to read off the names of the victims, and we just want to send our condolences still to the families, the friends and families, whoever has been impacted by the 9 lives that we lost. I'm going to read off the names of the victims, and we just want to say rest in peace to Ara Zaboyan, Peyton Chester, Sarah Chester, Christina Mauser, Carrie Altabelli, John Altabelli, Alyssa Altabelli, Gianna Bryant, and of course, Kobe Bryant. Like I said, it's been a very, very difficult week for just, I think, people all over the world. I know this week has been something that's given me a lot of perspective and just kind of forced me to sit back and kind of reevaluate a lot of things, because you learn, a very harsh lesson that life can be cruel, and it takes some very unexpected turns that you don't want it to. But for me personally, it's just been one of those things that's really opened my eyes and just kind of made me sit back and think about a lot of things and given me a lot of perspective. And you hate how it comes to that, but it is what it is. So basically the plan for this podcast, and I apologize if this kind of goes off the rails. I'm glad we waited a week to do this, because if we would have done this a few days after the accident, I don't know if I would have really been able to get through it. But yeah, we're going to just basically start by talking about how the last week has been, what it's been like for us, things we've noticed with just the outpouring of support for the Bryant family and the victims that lost their lives. We're going to talk about kind of the Lakers tribute to Kobe the other night against the Portland Trailblazers, and we'll cap it off hopefully on a happier note and talk about some of our favorite Kobe memories that kind of stand out to us personally, because Lord knows that man gave us plenty to choose from. So, um, all right. So to start, Hani, I guess just, I mean, if you're comfortable with it, just kind of describe, I guess, what the last week has been like for you, and just kind of some things that have stuck out to you in terms of all the support that you've seen for Kobe and Gigi Bryant and all the other victims.
Yeah, it's been, slowly improving for me, but um, just I can't really shake the feeling that I had the first 2, 3 days at least of
Mm.
what all of this meant. I know for me, I heard about the news almost immediately from our Slack channel for Lakers Outsiders, and I my first reaction was this isn't real. Um, and I think because it felt so unreal to me, and I was kind of in like a state of shock, and it wasn't really uh, emotional. I don't think I believed it. And it took a while, and I think it was when we found out that his daughter Gigi was also on the helicopter is when it really kind of hit me. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, but I think for us as kind of younger basketball fans, Kobe was a dude who we watched as we grew up, um, who meant a lot to us and really gave us a lot of life lessons, a lot of entertainment, obviously, but it was a little bit more than that. But Gigi was somebody that we watched grow up, or for some of the ones that are even younger, grew up with her, and a 13-year-old girl and her dad who had kind of been in the public light all their lives, basically. Um, that moment just hit me so hard, and uh, I if you had told me a couple months ago that I would ever get this emotional about somebody who I'd never met um, passing away, I would have told you you're crazy. But I think all those feelings of my childhood, of what uh, Kobe meant to me growing up, um, the inspiration, the just like the mental escapes from everything that he provided, and really the reason that I fell in love with the sport, fell in love with writing about the sport, doing podcasts, doing all of this, and committing to something that wasn't even ever going to be my career, and just kind of remembering all those moments. It was very, very emotional, and over the course of the week, I got a little bit better, but there are just certain moments where things kind of hit you hard again. Um, I know for me, it was like seeing Lamar Odom uh, post about Kobe, and kind of just then remembering my feelings when Lamar got into a coma a couple years ago, and Kobe literally left the preseason game to fly out to Vegas to go see him. Or when LeBron posted on Instagram, and all these like little moments that just kind of bring back all those same emotions that I felt a week ago now. Um, but yeah, it's just been a very, very hard week to kind of deal with this. And I know that feels really kind of selfish as just a fan and not somebody who knew these people and loved them as closely as their families and their friends. But
Mhm.
um, you know, I, there have been positives, just seeing everybody kind of come together and share these great stories about what these people meant to them. But for the most part, it's just been overwhelmingly um, just sad.
Yeah, you know, there's been a few times I've kind of sat back and thought of that when I felt like I was in a lot of emotional pain. Um, just thinking about how the victims' families all feel. Vanessa Bryant and Natalia. A lot of people don't talk about her. I mean, she's 17 years old, so she's certainly old enough to understand what's going on. And I mean, she lost her sister and her dad. I mean, some of those families were just shattered. I think it was the Altabelli family. They had two other kids, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
who lost both their parents and a sibling. So, um, like I said, man, life is can just be so sudden. It can be so cruel. And I think the part that really hit me the hardest about it, which made me really kind of just self reflect on a lot of things just in my life, I guess. Like, I don't even really get in the car the same way. This whole week, every time I kind of got in the car, I just kind of sat there for a second and just realized how much we take for granted getting from point A to point B safely.
yeah,
Um, Kobe especially was just this figure that felt just larger than life, right? Like he didn't like to me. I always obviously looked up to him from a very young age. Basically, one of the major reasons why I fell in love with the game of basketball, and I always look back to my first like organized game of basketball that I can remember. I was in first grade. Um, I always remember we had it was like YMCA basketball, first grade, and um, I was the only kid that was wearing sweats, and for some reason I always remember that. I always felt kind of weird, like I was just something I was comfortable with, and like just remember our blue jerseys, and we were going up against this team with a kid on it that was pretty good and ended up being a teammate of mine down the road. But I'll never forget the first shot I made was uh, uh, basically, and this was like first grade Y ball, so the rims I think were like 8 feet. They weren't like 10-foot rims; they were lowered rims. Um, and I hit a jump shot. My first shot that I made, I remember, was from the right elbow, and I just remember I wanted to, I tried to mirror Kobe's game pretty much my entire basketball playing life, but I always remember hitting that shot and wanting to just like run back on defense with kind of that same swagger that Kobe had, and I just I wanted to be just like him. I think the generation before us, grew up wanting to be like Mike, and I think you see it um, with today's generation of NBA players. I mean, Kobe Bryant was their Michael Jordan.
yeah.
He was the guy everybody wanted to be. And I think, the generation after us is going to probably feel that way about LeBron James. Um, it's just amazing to see the impact that he's had. And I think, like I said, that's what hit me so hard was that it just felt like something like that couldn't happen to Kobe. Like I said, he felt larger than life. He didn't feel like just an ordinary man in any respect. It just, you know, like it That's why I think it took a couple days to really hit me was that like this can't happen to Kobe. Like of all people, like no way. Um and I think the part that two parts really hit me the hardest was just looking back on all the memories of watching him play growing up. Um I mean, hell, since I was like 5 years old. I was born in '92, so it's '97. I fell in love with Kobe and his game, and um, like I said, I wanted to emulate that growing up, and um, I just thought of all the time and the memories that were made watching him play. With my family, with my dad, my brother, um, my cousin, who's my best friend. I mean, we're a Laker family, so I spent countless hours watching you know all the Kobe content that I could, watching him play and do his thing, and I never thought that somebody I never met could have such an impact on me, and somebody I never even met, and when he was gone, it felt like I lost a close friend,
Yeah,
and it feels weird to say about somebody that I never met, um, but watching the game the other night against the Blazers, and um, it kind of feels a little weird to say, but in some sense it's true. But my dad kept telling me, you know, Kobe didn't know us, but we knew him.
Mhm.
We knew what he was about, the example he wanted to set. You know, um, and I just admired his growth as a person. I'll be the first one to admit Kobe was far from perfect. Made some you know bad decisions in his life, made some mistakes like we all do. But it seemed like he grew from those, and he continued to evolve as a person. And I love that in his retirement that uh, just seeing how much he enjoyed fatherhood and being a dad to those little girls um, really hit home for me. I don't have any sisters, but my dad has been a huge part of my life, and I've felt nothing but love from him since day one. And I feel very blessed to have that. And to see Kobe do that for his kids really warmed my heart, and it looked like he really was enjoying retirement for that reason alone. um, it hurt so bad because it seemed like he was particularly close with Gigi. um, and the other part that really hurt with all of it was just the potential that those two had. It felt like Kobe had so much more to give the world, and he really embraced inspiring future generations. And I love that about him. That he kind of understood that his time as a player was over, but he could still inspire future generations and try and pay it forward. um, Plus the storytelling stuff and just everything he wanted to do. He was such an advocate for women's basketball, and I think um, it just really sucks that somebody like that with as much power as Kobe had, because women's basketball needs more people like that,
Yeah.
to try and share their influence on it. And Gigi, I mean, she was such an incredibly talented player for her age, and it looked like she was destined to become a WNBA player. And Laker fans were going to follow her career and root for her success. And I thought that was going to be so huge for women's basketball to get that kind of interest, and to just have the rug pulled out from under us. It just feels so cruel and unfair. Um, yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
suddenness of it, man. It hurt. It hurt so bad.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Tax season is here, and that means that it's time to file your taxes. There's good news. If you're a W 2 employee, you can save half off your filing. All you have to do is call the Tax Defense Group before April 15th, 2020, and mention that you saw this ad on UCAS Studios. Millions of Americans will get money back after they file, and you can be one of them. Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Writer Junkie. Are you looking to make more money in 2020? One of the best ways to do that is by having a new resume that can help you get that dream job. Writer Junkie offers affordable, well-written resumes for the low cost of $145. They'll even throw in a cover letter for no additional charge. All you have to do is mention that you saw this ad on UCAS Studios, and they'll get right to work. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com.
Yeah, and the family aspect of it that you talked about, I think, was a major focus for me. Um, because like my dad is one of the main reasons that I grew up watching basketball, and I got my fandom really of Kobe and the Lakers through him. Um, the rest of my family aren't really basketball watchers, but even they really understood um, what an important and like colossal figure Kobe was to me. And I was getting texts from my brothers, from my mom, after everything that happened because I think they understood that I was going to take it pretty hard. Which, again, like my family would probably usually make fun of me if I were ever to get upset about something that wasn't directly impacting me, not somebody that I knew
Mm.
personally. But I think they all understood that like he was such an inspirational figure, such an important person in terms of my bond with my dad. Um, just such an important person in how I handled any sort of challenge or adversity growing up or
Mhm.
even now. Um, and yeah, and kind of mirroring that with post retirement Kobe and the family man that he was, and how he was bonding with his daughter over basketball, and just being able to see that all the time, and kind of reminding me of me and my dad. It was just heartbreaking.
Right. Yeah, it's just it was so relatable on so many levels, and to be that relatable to somebody that is, you know, so unique, just a special talent, special individual. Um, and I think a lot of people learned a lot from him. Obviously, there's less than 1% of people are as talented as Kobe Bryant. Um, but man, I mean, I always loved his message that he wanted to be remembered as that guy that worked like he was the 12th man on the bench.
Yeah.
And he did. He worked insanely hard, and that's kind of something that stuck with me throughout my childhood. And it was something um, I always laugh. My senior year of basketball, our practices were about 3:15, um, and we get done at 5:15. And I would stay my senior year until about 9 o'clock um, after every practice, just because we'd have other teams that would practice after us, and I would, sometimes jump in their scrimmages, or I'd just shoot off to the side. I would just keep working because I saw how hard Kobe worked, and I, realized that's what you got to do. And it was funny. I remember coming home, just drenched in sweat one night about 9 o'clock, and my mom, I know, was very concerned that I was out doing things that I shouldn't be. Um, and like thought that I was I don't know, I think she thought that I was on drugs because I was, practice was over at 5:15. Why are you coming home at 9 o'clock?
Uh, I have an exact story just like that. Mine was so. I mean, I didn't really play organized basketball, but I would go play pickup at a local park with a bunch of friends, and we would always stay out until like 10 p.m. And you know, growing up in an immigrant family means that you're not supposed to stay out late ever. So coming home after that, my mom told me that she thought I was doing drugs. But I think I I got in trouble a couple times because of it. But I think they did kind of understand that like it was better for me to be out playing basketball and just hanging out with friends there than going out and doing some other crap. So I think at some point they kind of understood that it was just you know a good hobby and a productive way for me to spend my time.
Mhm. Yeah, man, it's just what made it, made this whole week so difficult. I don't think I'll ever forget, the time and place. I mean, pretty much every Sunday for me is kind of the same thing. I wake up, I'll make breakfast. I'll usually make like bacon and eggs. Um, and I remember I ate so much last Sunday that I needed a nap. Like I had just woken up like an hour prior, and I was already tired again because I ate so much. And you know, I woke up probably about 25 minutes after, and my phone was blowing up. I had missed calls. I had about 15 texts, and you know, um, I had so many people tell me you were the first person I thought of. And I remember an old teammate of mine commented on Instagram picture that I posted of Kobe that day. A couple days later, I was at work, and he commented that I was the first person that he thought of. And um, that I was about to go into a meeting at work, and I had to try and just dry my eyes as best I could. Um, everybody that grew up with me, went to school with me, or whatever, knew that that was my guy.
Hmm.
And um, my I don't know if it's like a defense mechanism or whatever, but when I get really down about something, I get sad. Like when the Titans lost to the Chiefs 2 weeks ago now, the prime example. My thing is I just go to sleep. You know, I either want to play basketball or I want to just sleep, so I don't have to think about it. And that was kind of how I handled like the Titans. Titans lost to the Chiefs. I didn't even watch the NFC Championship game after that. I laid down and I went to sleep. So because I was sad and I didn't want to think about it, and I wanted to do the same thing with the Kobe news. I mean, I had just woken up again, and I thought it was a bad dream. I really did. It didn't feel real, and I just kind of froze, and when it started to hit me, I just wanted to sleep again, but I couldn't. I mean, I ended up staying up until about 3 a.m. that night, um, and I don't think I left my room for 2 days.
Yeah.
Maybe to grab something to eat, but I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I had people reaching out to me, and um, I appreciate them thinking of me, but um, yeah, I've never, I think it's one of those things that's probably hit me the hardest. My we're big dog people, so we've had dogs kind of come and go, and that always hurts. I've had a few family members pass away. My grandfather passed away recently, but in all those cases where I lost a loved one, it was kind of one of those things where you could see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, every family member that I've lost so far were all grandparents of mine, and they were just really old, and that's kind of natural, and it hurts, but it's kind of something you see coming. And with this, man, it was just we were all so blindsided by it that it just shattered my heart, and it just felt like my childhood died with it. I'm 27 now, so my childhood's behind me quite a bit, but all I could think about was all those memories as that I was as a kid trying to be like number 8, like number 24, and it just hurts, man. It hurts, but there's it's been very moving to see so many people come together, and I just hate that. I hate sometimes the events that have to take place for us to all come together like I think we should. More often, more naturally. Um, but that's kind of the beautiful thing about Kobe is I mean, obviously he brought the entire city of Los Angeles together, which is so meaningful because of just the amount of diversity in that city, right?
Mhm.
Just so many different types of people, so many different backgrounds, all would come together for 2.5 hours, 3 hours a night, just to watch him play. And um, you know, I hope he's looking down and seeing the impact that he had not only on the city of Los Angeles, but even just a random guy that lives in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
Just all over the world. To see the impact is something truly special, and I hope wherever he is, I hope he's looking down and can see the impact that he's had on people all over the world. It's just tough, man. It's
Yeah.
really tough.
Yeah.
Um, I want to say thank you to you for being able to tweet during the Blazer game 2 nights ago. Um, it was obviously tough for all of us, but I want to just say I thought the Lakers did an unbelievable job of honoring him. And
Yeah.
I remember looking up at the clock at one point, and it was 15 minutes past 8:30, which was the slot that the game was supposed to start, and didn't really care. Didn't really care. You know, I just wanted to basically soak up all the memories that people were sharing, and just the way the Lakers honored him was very touching. Especially the video with Kobe kind of narrating it himself.
Yeah.
I thought was a beautiful touch, and again, it was just amazing to see just all the love and support for him. And I hope Vanessa was able to watch and see how touching that was, and hopefully it meant a lot to her. I guess I'll just throw it to you on what your thoughts were of that night and just all the tributes, I guess, that we've uh, we've seen so far.
Yeah, I think it was heartbreaking still to see all of this and tune in for a basketball game and have basically a memorial service for this larger than life figure. But I do think it was also cathartic in a sense. Seeing a building filled with 20,000 people chanting his name was surreal. Um, that
Yeah,
video that you talked about, I think, was just brilliantly done. It was beautiful to just hear him talk about everything that basically made him special to so many people. And I think I was very grateful. Um, this is it kind of sounds stupid because it is, in a sense, a basketball thing that seems very um, not meaningful right now. But I was really grateful that LeBron was a Laker in that moment. Um, his speech was amazing. It was stronger than anything I could imagine a friend of Kobe's doing in that moment. Um, just literally minutes before that, we had seen him crying his eyes out while the national anthem was being sung, and to come out there and to talk about all the things that Kobe meant to him specifically, and what he meant to millions of other people, and to, like you said, turn it into a celebration of his life. I think that was very necessary for a lot of people to, start to kind of heal from this. It kind of it took a while in the actual game, but I think it kind of brought us back to a tiny, tiny bit of normalcy. Um, that was just really necessary. And
hmm
I personally hate this thing that I've seen a lot of people do about like galvanizing the team with, now LeBron is a Laker, or now the Lakers have to win the championship for Kobe. I really hate that because I don't think we should be uh, galvanizing grief in any way, and I don't think we should be using public figure's death as a like a motivational tool.
right.
But I do just feel really grateful that LeBron is here, and he can kind of carry that torch, regardless of what actually happens on the basketball court, but just be that same sort of figure that Kobe was for so long, um, uh, to a lot of people.
All I could think of after that speech was just how fortunate the Laker franchise, Laker fans, how fortunate we are to have LeBron James. Not only in general, but just especially in this moment. I can't think of really any individual that could be. I'm trying to find the right words here. I guess like a beacon of hope and optimism to heal, um, and somebody with the appropriate strength. I think um, to help kind of lead the way and help us all try and get through this together. Because
Yeah.
the annoying thing to me is looking back on, and my younger self, I got caught up in it too, was kind of the media created LeBron Kobe rivalry,
Hmm.
because those two, there were never rivals ever. Those two grew, their friendship into a brotherhood, and they both meant so much to each other. And it was kind of like, Kobe and Wade, that was kind of looked at as a rivalry because they both had Shaq at one point, and they were both played the same position and all that. Um, and you can just, I mean, The thing I love about basketball, and I think Kobe's relationship with a lot of these guys really exemplified, was that it's such a brotherhood. It's such a brotherhood, and it's guys are just really close. And I think that's one thing that I always loved about playing growing up is just the relationships that I'd have with my teammates, and
Mm,
the friendships that I made along the way. And um, we're just very lucky to have LeBron. And like you said, it's been kind of annoying that there's been like this. You got to win it for Kobe now. And my thing is, if you want to honor Kobe, all you have to do is just go out and just play your hardest, man. Just play hard, because I mean, Kobe played 20 years and won 5 championships. You know,
yeah,
not to take anything away from him or anything, because 5 championships. I mean, how many players honestly do that? Kobe was a great winner, a great champion, but he didn't win every year. Nobody does.
yeah,
Um, the thing that I always loved about Kobe was just his tenacity, how hard he played, how the injuries he pushed through. And I guess I'll transition this into kind of our last segment here, and we'll talk about some memories. I shared this on Twitter um, the night of the Portland game. Um, so many memories stand out, but for me, as somebody that grew up in Boise, um, Salt Lake City was always the closest NBA city, and their fans are terrible, for lack of a better word. You would think, with such a like religious group of people, and you would think that they'd be kinder, I guess, but they're pretty ruthless as fans. I think that's why it always meant more when we went there, rocking our Laker gear, and um, when the boys could get a W when we were in attendance. That always felt so sweet. And my favorite game, I think, of all time was the game 4 of the 2009 first round series. Kobe was coming off a game that he was 5 of 24. In game 3, they lost. Series was 2-1. They were still in decent shape. Um, but I was nervous going into that game. I was really nervous because, um, it's like, if we lose this game, it's 2-2. Their fans are going to, let us hear it all the way back to our hotel. And I didn't want any part of that. I didn't want any part of that. And um, a 2-2 series can go any which way. Um, but I felt comfortable knowing that Kobe was coming off a 5 of 24 game, and he missed the game-winning shot at the buzzer. And I just remember the team coming out of the tunnel, and just seeing him in warm-ups. I was really nervous about the game for the reasons I just mentioned, but the camera kept finding him, on the big jumbotron that hangs above the court, and just seeing the seriousness in his face. He was chomping on, his purple gum. I'll just never forget the look on his face. And I remember turning to my cousin, um, and just saying, "We're not losing this game." Like, I could just tell by the look in his eyes. And didn't I mean, he was so just locked in, so serious, so focused. A lot of times guys are trying to stay loose during pregame warm-ups, have a good time, smile, whatever. He was just so laser focused. And um, he hit some of the most ridiculously contested jump shots I've ever seen in that game. He was 16 of 24, had 38 points, and the game was really never even in question. Uh, it started kind of slow. I think the Jazz went up 14-9. Kobe had all 9 early points for the Lakers. I think he had 13 of their first 15. And he finished with 38 points. The Lakers dominated, went up 3-1, and they went on to win a championship that year against Orlando. That's probably my favorite moment of his in person. But there's another Jazz game that really stands out, and I kind of think it's relevant just because of all the. Not that I'm knocking the load management stuff and all that, because I think it's important for players to take care of their bodies. But back in 2003, we had tickets to the Lakers and Jazz, and we were watching them play the Rockets in LA the night before. And Shaq was already out, so we were already kind of bummed that we weren't going to get to see Shaq. But Kobe was playing, so we still had hope. That's a tough back-to-back. This is back, I think, when the Rockets had Yao. Um, and the Lakers win against Houston in double overtime. Kobe is literally hobbling around on one leg. He's in a lot of pain, but I think he played 54 minutes that night and just gutted it out. Gutted it out, had 52 points, was just an unreal performance. Unreal performance. And once the buzz of the win kind of wore off, like all I could think was, crap, we're gonna go see the Lakers play without Shaq and Kobe now. Because it's a back to back. There's no way he plays. It's a regular season game, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of going down. The cool thing about Utah, and not every NBA arena does this, but when players are warming up, as soon as the doors open, like an hour before game time, you can kind of go down to like the court level, um, and you can watch the players warm up. The players that do come out, at least, that early, and a lot of them will sign autographs. And I remember Derek Fisher was out warming up, and he was signing autographs, and everybody, was asking him, how's Kobe doing? Is Kobe going to play? And I was close enough to hear him. He's like, oh yeah, he's playing. And so I felt some comfort in that. I didn't know what to expect. And he went out and he scored 40 points, and the Lakers won. And that was in the middle of his 40-point streak that year, where I think he had 9 straight 40-point games. And stuff like that is just what I always respected of him. For those people that know me, I'm a big Titans fan too. So my two favorite athletes, really, of all time, are Steve McNair and Kobe Bryant. Kind of for the same reason. McNair was another one of those guys, and I can't believe both of those guys are no longer with us. But those two dudes, man, would just play through anything if their bodies would allow them. McNair, man, they were just built from the same cloth. Like, they would just play through anything if they could. And I always just respected that about Kobe, and especially looking now at all the load, basically the load management era that we live in. If he could play, he was going to play. And I just always respected that as somebody that, was just your average Joe, that paid, I mean, my dad at the, at the time, because I was only, I think, 10 or 11 years old then. But like nowadays, especially when you pay a lot of money to see these guys play. And it's kind of disheartening if one of them sits out, just for rest, on the night that you went to go see him play. And this for somebody that didn't grow up in an NBA city, and I always had to travel to go see these guys play. Always respected Kobe, that he was at least going to try. And I remember I saw his last game at Portland, because I wanted to see him play one last time, and you could tell, he was hurting. His body was just worn down at that point in the final year of his career, but he still went out and played. Even in a limited capacity, and just got to see him play. And that Utah game especially, because I think 99% of players now in that much pain the night before on a back-to-back, there's no way in hell they play the next night, let alone score 40 points and lead your team to a W. Just a special, special player, just built from, cut from a different cloth, man. Just unreal individual. And stuff like that, why I loved him so much, and I'm gonna miss him dearly.
Yeah, I think my favorite Kobe moment is similar, but also a lot more depressing. um, I I will never forget watching him play in that game where he tore his Achilles, um, because that game was just ridiculous in so many ways. Um, he he got hurt probably 3 or 4 times just in that game before he actually tore the Achilles. Um,
Hmm.
and he kept playing through it just like he had for that entire, like, month beforehand, where he was playing basically 48 minutes a night trying to will the Lakers into the playoffs. And as depressing as that season had been, and as tough as it was to even watch the games, because of the expectations that we had for that team and how far they were from them, Kobe made it somewhat enjoyable because of the way he was playing. Um, and to me, it's like maybe arguably his most impressive season. But seeing him go down with the Achilles, you're fearing the worst, and then somehow I I don't even understand the mentality that he thought of doing this, but he basically pinches his Achilles down back to his foot after it has rolled up, and just so he can hit a couple of clutch free throws, and then walk off the court basically under his own power. Again, with a torn Achilles, the injury that literally ends careers for basketball players. Um, and seeing him do that, it almost made you feel like if there's one person who will ever come back from a torn Achilles at like 34 years old or whatever he was at the time, it's going to be Kobe. And to think that they won that game by 2 points, and then they won the next game and they made it into the playoffs. He literally dragged that team to the playoffs on a non-functional foot. He was standing on one foot hitting those free throws, and I will just never forget how incredible it is that he even thought of doing that. How incredible it is that he was able to do that. Um, I don't think the list of humans that could ever possibly imagine doing something like that is immensely low, and I'm not sure if there's more than one person on
Only Kobe, man.
it.
Only Kobe. Like the funny thing about that was like I remember seeing him walk off the court, and I for some reason I wasn't worried.
Yeah.
Like you would think, oh, Kobe left the game and didn't come back, and he had just you know taken a beating, but I figured he's walking off the court, so it's not a torn Achilles, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody does that. Like if you tear your Achilles, I've seen so many dudes get carted off, carried off, whatever. Just to have the audacity to try and like stop it from rolling up his leg and like holding it in place and then walking out, hitting two free throws, uh, and then to walk off the court. And I saw it floating around on Twitter. Apparently Gary Vitti,
Yeah.
the story about one asking him if he wanted a wheelchair and he said no, that he's walking off and that was his, pardon my language, but his fuck you to Paul Pierce. That right there is just like the most Kobe story
Yeah.
ever. And it's just stuff like that was why I love that man so much and why he meant so much to all of us because he just probably physically and mentally the toughest athlete I think I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Um, just to overcome the adversity that he had. I mean, so many people hated him, and I think that's kind of something that hit me pretty hard is that seeing so many people that hated him while he played have just been devastated by
Yeah.
his loss.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of think back to my dad. So my dad grew up during the Showtime era, and he'd always tell me he hated Larry Bird, and I think every Laker fan during that era did. But when Larry Bird finally retired, my dad would always just think, like, I miss that guy. Like,
Mhm.
you just gained a respect for him, you know. And I think we're seeing that with so many people. I mean, even the Kings Twitter account, like, would always just post about the Lakers, even when they didn't even play the Lakers that night. Would always try and crack jokes about the Lakers. And I mean, I saw it earlier today. They posted like a memory of Kobe scoring 48 against them in the playoffs and knocking them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, even the people that hated his guts as a player uh, just grew to respect him. I think, and I always said, you hate Kobe, but you love to have him on your team.
Mhm.
And I mean, we're seeing that, and it's been pretty meaningful to me to not only see just the outpouring of support from Laker fans, but just from basketball fans and sports fans in general. Because it's just sometimes life is cruel, man. Life can be so beautiful sometimes, but sometimes it's very cruel. And um, it's been difficult week. Um, but kind of looking back on a lot of memories has put a smile on my face, and it means a lot to know that he meant so much to so many people. Um, I don't I don't really know what else to say after that.
Can I give one more Kobe story that I think everybody forgot about, and I forgot about until we literally just a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
because it is a perfect Kobe story. This is him. I think he said the story during his last year, around the time when they were playing the Celtics for the last time, or he was playing the Celtics for the last time, and um, he was talking about how after they lost in 2008 to the Celtics, that um, he spent basically an entire summer working out while listening to the Dropkick Murphys song "I'm Shipping Up to Boston" as his motivational tool to get back to the finals and get revenge on the Celtics, because he wanted to remember the feeling that he had when they kept playing that and "Don't Stop Believing" in the arena, as they were killing the Lakers.
he just he was built differently, man. Like they truly broke the mold when they made Kobe Bryant, and yeah, that's why you know, like three sports memories have you know kind of are all about the same for me in terms of like my favorite sports memories ever. And one of those is just that game 7 against Boston. It was so sweet to get revenge on those guys, but to see it was obviously just a dreadful shooting night from Kobe. You could just tell he was on fumes, running on fumes, man. He was out of gas. He was so good in that series. Um, but I always look, obviously the big thing was he had 15 rebounds in that game, and him chasing down the ball at the end from the pass from Lamar. I'll just never forget, you know, he hits the two free throws to put him up 66-64. They finally had battled back and finally retaken the lead. And then he comes back, they get a stop, and then he comes down and hits that signature jump shot uh, from like the right elbow area with Ray Allen on him to put him up 68-64. And it's that sheer determination, that mental strength, to not think about the shots that he had missed in that game, but to really truly believe that the next one was always going in. Um, it's stuff like that why I love that guy so much. And I remember my senior year, we had this kid on our team that was a junior. It was his first varsity game, and I could tell he was a really quiet kid. He was really nervous, um, like I was my first varsity game as a sophomore. But um, his first three hit the side of the backboard. Um, and I remember he came out of the game shortly after that, and he sat down and straight up said, I'm not shooting anymore today." And I just looked over him, and all I could think of was Kobe's mentality, the Mamba mentality. And I just looked at him and said, "Hey, man, the only way you're going to make shots is if you keep taking them." And I kind of thought of Kobe's, the Kobe. Well, I don't remember if it was like the Kobe quote or whatever. I can't remember if he said it, or I remember I think it was like Dion Waiters said something about it. It was like, I'd go 0 for 30 before I'd go 0 for 9.
Yeah.
Like, he's just gonna keep shooting, and always respected that about him, man. Like, he just was so mentally tough, and I know certain fans didn't like that about him, but I always just respected that about him. That you know didn't matter. He was gonna keep plugging away, and he was gonna keep trying. And yeah, just gonna miss him a lot, man.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Uh, I will leave it at, I think, my favorite Kobe quote to have kind of made the rounds um, since his passing. Again from 2008. Um, he says, "Have a good time. Life is too short to get bogged down and be discouraged. You have to keep moving. You have to keep going. Put one foot in front of the other, smile, and just keep on rolling."
Truer words, man, have not been spoken, and that's the beautiful thing about Kobe. No matter how down times were, he just kept going. You look back at the 4 air balls against Utah, his rookie year, and at the time people probably laughed at him, but I mean I was super young. I was probably 4 years old at that point, almost turning 5, and all I could think of about those shots is not that he airballed them; it's that he kept shooting. What NBA rookie airballs 3 shots in the clutch in a playoff game, elimination game, and has the balls to take a 4th one? I feel like I've said this so many times looking back on memories, but only Kobe, man, only Kobe. All right, I don't have anything else. I could, I probably do. I could probably talk about Kobe all day, but um, yeah, it's a good point to sign off. Just remembering that he brought so many happy memories, not only for me as an individual standpoint, but with me spending a lot of time with my family watching him play, and I'll always appreciate him for so many reasons. But the memories that he gave all of us, the lessons that he gave all of us, and you know with probably the most important reason just being to keep going, keep fighting. And like I said, man, I'm gonna miss him very much. So, alrighty, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna do what Kobe told us to do, and just keep going. So, for Hani Amadian, I'm Gary Kester with the Lakers Outsiders, signing off and saying Mamba forever.